Hey guys, I don't really run out of things to say, to my own horror, but I'm just going to read out an email that a viewer sent to me. I think a female who was especially moved and inspired by some of my recent videos that use the word idiot in the title, use the word idiot in the thesis, and use the word idiot liberally throughout. But this is someone who reacted this positively, and you're going to see why. And she talks about her own negative experience growing up with meat and animals on a farm being slaughtered and this kind of thing. Her name is Stephanie. I just use first names by default. So Stephanie writes into me saying, "Last night I explained to an omnivore roommate how chickens are humanely slaughtered on the farms where I'm from. These are the picturesque small family farms which only grow, sell, and slaughter what they need. I explained it in graphic detail because he was excited that he had found a farm where they raised chickens and gathered eggs humanely and in small broods so they could have better lives before being humanely processed. He felt this would make me more comfortable with the eggs and meat in the fridge." So this is a vegan who has a roommate who eats meat, so they have to share a fridge, so she's got to look at the eggs and the meat in her fridge. Right? "I felt he deserved to fully understand the processed bullshit stew he was lapping up." So she's now describing the process of what actually happens on these farms. "You pick up the chicken and wrap it in a towel. It's used to being picked up and cuddled because you've been picking it up and cuddling it all of its life. You talk to it soothingly, call it by its name, and pet it until it settles down and nestles on your lap. You tell it what a good chicken it has been and thank it for its eggs. You respect it for all it has and will give you. You coo like you know how chickens love to be cooed at, so it relaxes even more, almost napping. Then comfortably holding it down with its head at your knees, you stretch its neck out, scratching and rubbing it as chickens really like, and quickly and deeply cut its throat with a very sharp, warm, wet, clean knife. It doesn't even notice at first. You continue petting it and soothing it for several seconds while it bleeds out all over your feet. And when the pain of bleeding out hits, and that last desperate attempt to live causes the chicken to struggle, you do what is right, and quite literally twist and rip its head off. Because this is way more humane than repeatedly and partially missing with an axe, which is very common. And besides, it only happens when they're too old to lay eggs anymore, and a broiler bird is needed." So her letter continues. This is the end of the descriptive paragraph. "I'm glad you call out every idiot you find. I'm glad you call out situations for what they are. I'm glad because what you just quoted in this video scares the fuck out of me right now. I used to believe all the humane bullshit, and this was long before any of it became a marketing gimmick. I used to believe it was better than factory farming, and maybe for a few years of the birds' lives, it is. But as a kid, I held chickens and cried, saying I was so sorry, but it had to be done. Had to be done. Because that's how it always was. It is something you can never atone for or be okay with, and never should be, no matter how infrequent or humane it was. The delusional sense of cohabitation/community bullshit sure as fuck doesn't give the right to people who are supposed to know better to compromise and then encourage others to do the same. Once you know better, you are unethical and immoral for willingly compromising, just so other people can feel more comfortable with their... Hope gets to me. Once you know better, you are unethical and immoral for willingly compromising, just so other people can feel more comfortable with their cruel and convenience-driven decisions, I feel. It would be like me going home and being the one to teach kids in the family how to humanely kill chickens while wearing a vegan t-shirt. what moves me emotionally in that message is not the description of the chickens being killed. You may have noticed. I've seen chickens killed. Seen it when I was a kid, seen it when I was an adult, seen it in third world conditions, seen it in the Western world, and of course you can see it on YouTube. What gets to me emotionally is the hope, no matter how minuscule, that I'm not the only person who sees what's wrong with this. Who sees what's wrong with the industry and with the excuses made for the industry. And with the whole, civilization that surrounds me. The whole, cultural infrastructure of indoctrinating children with these excuses. And having, restaurants and religious ceremonies making a fucking holiday out of eating this meat and killing these animals and making them into a symbol of prosperity and health and happiness and enjoyment. Every day I gotta look at that. Every day I gotta look at the reality of that industry and a whole human civilization and culture built around it, sitting on top of those excuses. And in a sense, I'm a lot more used to the bleakness of that hopelessness, than I am even having that little bit of hope of seeing there's one other person out there who sees what's wrong with it, who sees that the situation has to change, and that all our cultural assumptions and excuses for the last 500 years and the last 500 years have to stop.